What is that? Wow.
Squeaking.
Squeaking! Oh, where's he going? He's on a mission.
Very fast.
Gosh, we're such losers. Hey dudes, how's it going? Welcome back to another Field Conversations. Today we are talking about God being in control or not in control, and we're just going to chat through areas of our life and expose areas of our life where perhaps we're not trusting God with it, we're not allowing God to move in those areas for whatever reason, and hopefully move through that in a constructive way to help one another. And you guys at home can follow along as well. The stuff we talk about, think about it yourself. How does that apply to you? What things might you need to do differently after this? And we'll see how it goes. Out of 10, how much do you think God is generally in control of your life? Or how much are you allowing him to be in control of your life out of 10?
8,
Okay.
I think. Thing is, I really like being in control, but I like being in control of the little things.
What little things?
Just like knowing what I'm doing with my day, that kind of stuff. Or like the little things and the timings I like being in control of. Whereas I think the general big things, God is in control of, I think.
Rosie?
Probably like 7.
Okay.
But also I hate being in control of stuff. Like I can't even make a decision.
It's true. I can vouch for
Yeah.
that.
I hate being in control, so
So why don't you give God more control then, if you don't like the control?
I guess it's just a trust thing. Like trusting God with it.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm going to go like an 8 as well.
Yeah.
Like generally I feel pretty happy because I've had enough experiences where I've not given God control and it's not gone well, and when I have given God control and it has gone well, and also I feel like I know God enough that I'm pretty happy with the fact that God is the best person to be in control of stuff. But I have very passionate wants and desires for my life. Like there's just certain things I'm like, God, I really want this to happen, I want it to happen this way at this time. And even though I can accept that God's going to do what he wants with that, I can't get over the fact that I really want what I want. And God's going to know what I want.
So what could we do to make it a 10 then? What's stopping us from giving 10 out of 10 to God?
I think for me it's like a regular submission. Because also like with things like YouTube that I'm kind of in control of to quite a large extent because I run the channel, sometimes when it's going well, I just forget that God's like I could give more control in that area, because I'm like, oh, I'm the one thinking of the ideas and filming and editing and uploading and stuff. But if I was in the habit of regularly stopping and reflecting, then before I go and shoot video or plan something, then I can say, you know, we can pause. Sorry, but that's not in the video if you want. If I could just get in that regular routine of reflecting on what I'm doing, then I'd be more aware of when I'm forgetting to give God control.
Rosie, you got anything?
I guess it's just trusting God.
Yeah.
That's just a whole other thing, like really. Just trusting God.
Why is it hard to trust God?
I think it's almost difficult because we see everything through our eyes, and therefore we see what we think is the best solution. So quite often we'll pray to God like, God, I pray that this happens, when actually God might have a different thing for us that might be loads better. We've got to give him that control and like do what he asks, rather than going with what we think is best. It's always about like asking God like, what do you think is best for me in this situation, rather than what I think is best in that situation, because God sees it through a whole different lens, I suppose. God has loads more solutions that we can't even think of to issues and problems that we have that we should give to God. Yeah, I think it's always about trusting that God definitely knows the best thing for us, and that we should go with his plan rather than our plan, because God's plan can seem weird and just in our minds almost like stupid, like why would that make sense, but it does work out in the end.
That's the thing. I think it's important to remember that God can surprise us.
Yeah.
Because we always think that we know best based on our own experiences and stuff. but so many times God proves me wrong. But then somehow when it comes to the next point, I seem to forget that he has that ability. So
Almost having to remind yourself all the time.
yeah, and God can pull us through the hardest times, the craziest times, most impossible times, and he does, and it tends to always be in a way that's unexpected.
Yeah.
In what area of your life is it hardest for you to give God control?
I don't know.
Really?
Go on then, Gemma, you say.
Oh, immediately I'm like marriage. because that's been like my want for so long, since I was like a young teenager. I've always wanted to be married, and I've always been looking forward to that. And if I'd had this conversation with myself 10 years ago, I would have expected myself to be married by now, and I'm not really near that at all. And so and I'm not saying I regret that or like God's done anything wrong, because actually I'm quite happy with how things have turned out so far. But I'm still like, but I still want this to happen, and in my ideal scenario it would work out like this, and I'd be engaged by this time next year, whatever. But I don't know that that's what God's going to do, and it's hard to trust that whatever God does, I'm eventually going to be happy with in retrospect.
I probably find the easiest time is like when I was applying for unis or when I was applying for jobs. I felt it quite easy to like give all that control to God and be like, God, whatever job you want me to be at, whatever uni you want me to be at, you'll make it clear. And that's how I ended up going to uni that I went to. How I end up with the job that I've got now is because I gave all of that control to God. And I found that quite easy, whereas other things, I don't know, just a lot more difficult.
I think when it comes to relationships with people, like, I want to be in control. I want to decide how it ends or how it goes or what happens to it.
So having these kind of conversations is really useful, and it's good to just check in with each other. And sometimes the things that you talk about are so different, sometimes they're really similar, but ultimately when you're with a community of Christians in particular, or like-minded people, then you're kind of going on the same path, so it's easy to look out for each other and support each other. So definitely be having these conversations with your own friends, or pick whatever topic might be more relevant to you, and just be there to support and encourage one another. And that's such an important part of Christian community, of being a church, being together as God's model of his people. So definitely be following that and giving it a go, and we just hope that works out well for you and is really helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.